Hey guys, I just want to give you a quick lesson on air masses. Air masses really are probably one of the easiest things that we're going to do in weather, and but they're really important to do right before fronts. So I'm going to again go back to my reference tables and I'm going to show you where I'm going to be at. Right now, this is page 13 of my reference tables. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy over these air mass symbols right here. So on my paper, I'm just going to copy them over. So air masses, and this is page 13 of my Earth Science reference tables. And if you notice, there's Ca, Cp, Ct, Mt, and Mp. And then I'm going to put that aside. So really what you need to know is that two factors distinguish an air mass. All right. And an air mass really is just, get this, you ready? An air mass is just a mass of air. And the thing is it's determined by where it forms. So this is also tricky. You ready? If this air mass forms near the equator, it's going to be hot. And if the air mass forms near the poles, it's going to be cold. All right. So what we've got is we've got a T or a P, and the T means tropical. Let's keep that one step or take that one step further. Tropical means warm. So if that air mass formed in tropical areas, it's going to be a warm air mass. And if it formed in a polar region, it's going to be a cold air mass. Let's hope it stays this easy, right? Air masses really do. All right, so they're pretty easy. If it forms, again, it's determined by where it forms. So if it forms in a tropical area, it's warm, and if it forms in a polar area, it's cold. But there's actually another factor to this too, right? There's a C and an M. C means continental. And if it forms over a continent, then that air mass is going to be dry. And if it forms over water, this is maritime. Maritime means water. Then it's going to be wet or moist. So what we actually do is we take these two letters and we put them together. So let's start at the bottom actually, because I want to talk about Arctic in just a second. If we start with MP, we're talking about maritime polar air mass. And if we just look at the characteristics, it's going to be wet and cold. Wet and cold. All right, so this is not the type of air mass we want to bring weather to our area, because if it does, it's going to bring wet, cold weather, and that's not what I'm interested in. This second one up from the bottom is also maritime, but it's tropical. So maritime, tropical, not so bad, right? Maritime again means wet, but tropical means warm. So this is going to bring wet, warm air to our region. So this would be like weather that's blowing off of the southern Atlantic Ocean, and it's bringing wet, warm water with it. So maybe it would bring some warm rain, but definitely moisture and humidity. All right, and warm weather, warm temperatures. The next one, CT. C stands for continental, and the T stands for tropical. So continental, tropical, this would be, continental would be dry, because it forms over land, and the tropical would be warm. So dry, warm. This would be like the Southwest, an air mass that formed over the Southwest, like New Mexico or Arizona. Nice, dry, warm weather, and then it blew over us. That would be continental tropical weather or air mass. And then CP, continental polar, continental polar. CP, continental would be dry, polar would be cold. So this would bring dry, cold weather over to our area. And then notice this last one. This actually stands for continental Arctic. Now, the cool thing about this one is, did you notice that there's no MA? There's no maritime Arctic. Why do you think that is? Let's think about cold air, like really, really cold air. Do you remember we talked about how when air gets cold, it contracts and it doesn't have lots of space for moisture. So this is actually dry air that's super cold. And because it's so cold, it's actually squeezed all the moisture out. So there is actually no such thing as maritime Arctic air because that Arctic air is so cold that there's no room for humidity at all. So it doesn't exist. There is only a continental Arctic air mass, and this would be something that would form at our very high polar regions. All right, that's air masses in a nutshell. See ya.